Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Today is, let's see, March the 7th. I am so excited for you guys to be joining with me today. We have quite a few things to go over, including Jerome Powell and his conversations today about the Fed and what they are seeing and when we might actually see the rates coming down, because I know that's on a lot of people's mind. They've been talking about it for a while. I have a client that is here from Florida, and we were driving around earlier today, actually having this conversation because he said, I keep hearing that rates are going to come down. Is this actually going to happen? So we're going to dive into that today. But first, drop in the chat where you are tuning in from. How has your week been? Mine has been fantastic. We've actually seen some warm weather and sunshine here in Georgia. Here is your warning. If you are thinking about making a move to Georgia, or if you are coming to visit because you are planning to move further out, it is now time for you to go ahead and start your medications for allergies. Pollen season is right around the corner. I've started my Flonase actually this week because April will be here before you know it, and the pollen will absolutely be killing my sinuses. So if you watched any of my videos on the reasons not to move to Georgia, allergies is one of the top reasons. Other than that, I love Georgia. I've lived here for 41 years, and I will take the pollen as one of the negatives because of all of the positives. So with that said, how is everyone doing? Howdy, Mama L and company. Love it. Always love that you are here. So we're going to dive in. We're going to get started. First, I want to go ahead and just do a quick recap of what we're seeing here in Georgia. So right now, I don't want to see the last 3 years. I want to just see the last year trend. And we're going to go ahead and switch this to Gwinnett for right now, just so you can see a more realistic expectation of what we're seeing here. So right now, the February numbers have come out. So last week, we were not really looking at February because they always come out just shortly after. We were looking at January. So you can see that we've continued on up with our trend. So this is the median sales price right now in Gwinnett County, which that's going to include places like Beaufort, Suwannee, Lawrenceville, Duluth, things like that. So the average sales price is around $425,000, and that's up from January. We were at $410,000. So not a substantial amount, but $15,000 is still quite a bit of money. So realistically, when we're looking at what things have changed or how much equity you've gained over the year, we haven't seen substantial growth. We've seen about 1 to 1.6% so far this year, but that's still a positive trend. And that's all I care about. We can't really grow too much at a time, or that's how we get into the situations we're in where affordability is not a great thing. So, what about new listings? New listings, we are starting to see just a little bit more. I am hopeful for all of you that are trying to get into a home and having a little bit of frustration because there's just not a lot of opportunity to purchase because lack of inventory. I'm hoping that we're going to start to see our spring market, where typically around March, April here in Georgia, you start to see home prices, or not home prices, home opportunities increasing. So I'm hoping that this line from January to February and the fact that we're seeing more options, I'm really hopeful that that means we're going to start to see some more resale opportunities popping up, because that would really help just everything in general. Right now, a lot of the opportunities have only been in new construction. And if you're not looking at $600,000 or more, you're not getting into new construction. And there's quite a few people that $600,000 is a very large budget and not their budget. So we've got to see some resales come onto the market so that we can have some people, especially first-time home buyers, that are trying to get into the market, and it just almost seems impossible for a lot of them. And y'all, that's not a good feeling. We don't want that. So I am hopeful that we're going to see some more resales pop up on the market. So with that, what are we going to see as far as interest rates? Because I feel like that will really work up if we see some of these resales, because a lot of sellers are kind of sitting still because they have a really great interest rate. If you're at 3 or 4%, it's really hard for you to justify selling your home, even though you might really want to or even need to in some perspectives. Why would you sell when then when you turn around and buy, you're now going to be in a 6 or 7% interest rate? So I feel like if we could start to see some of these interest rates come down, that would incentivize people to list their homes, which would then give others the opportunity to buy those properties, the resale properties that come on the market, as well as it would make affordability much easier for quite a few people, because with the interest rates coming down, it's not just the fact that if you have a $300,000 loan and it comes down, then that's a more affordable monthly payment. It actually increases the amount that you can then finance. So the difference between 7% and just 5.5% is substantial when it comes to what you can actually qualify for. So let's see what Mr. Powell had to say. It wasn't too bad. I was a little worried today, a little concerned, but he said that we're not far, as I quote him, from the point of cutting interest rates. So he said, we're waiting to become more confident that inflation is moving sustainably at 2%. If you guys recall, we've talked about this. I've preached about this for months. When I say months, I'm talking like all of 2023. Jerome Powell has said, until we get, you know, the economy down to where we're right at 2, maybe 3, but his target number has been 2% all along. And he has preached and said, my goal is not to put us into recession. My goal is not to crash the economy. However, if that happens as a result of this, so be it. Because until consumers can control their spending, we're going to keep things where they are, because unfortunately a lot of people, and if this is you, I'm sorry if I'm hurting your feelings, but you might need to hear it. If you cannot control your spending, if you are spending outside of your means, then this is why they are continuing down this path to reel things in. So he says, the Fed doesn't drive the economy into recession rather than normalizing the policy as the economy gets back to normal. So again, he's trying to just pull things back in. It's really sad, if I'm honest, because I feel like Jerome Powell is all of our dad. You know what I mean? Like, we're the kids and we don't know how to spend our money wisely. And so Jerome Powell's like, okay, you guys got a little out of hand in 2020 and 21. And I thought that I would give you an opportunity to kind of reel it in, but you've all chosen not to. So I'm going to do that for you. And unfortunately, he takes a lot of flack because of it. But God bless y'all. We have to figure out how to stay within our means. And so he just kind of reminds me of like our dad. So it says at the beginning of the year, futures traders were betting the Fed would start in March. I know if you've been on my channel, you knew that I didn't believe this for a second, and that they would keep going until it had cut 6 or 7 times this year. The outlook now is for the first cut to come in June, with 4 reductions totaling a full percentage point by the end of 2024. Now, I would love to hear from you guys based on what you saw last year, if you were keeping up with it at all. What do you think of this? What are your thoughts on this? I'll tell you mine. I think that we might possibly see a cut in second quarter, which would be around June. I think we might possibly see another cut somewhere between June and August, September timeframe. However, I don't think we're going to see much after that, because I really believe that fourth quarter of this year is going to be so dedicated and focused on the elections. I don't care what side of the coin you're on, who you're voting for. That's none of my business, nor do I want to have that discussion. However, I feel like all of the real estate that's going to take place is mostly going to take place by the end of third quarter, because fourth quarter is going to be 100%. Most of us are going to be focused on what's going on with elections, and there's not going to be a lot of this, going on. I think whatever's going to happen, whatever cuts they're going to do, it's going to take place by that time, because you've heard me say on here before, they want happy people. I don't care what side you're voting for, they want happy people because it makes them look good. And if the economy is looking good and rates are coming down and affordability is back up, they have a happy nation. So I do not think this whole 6 or 7, I pray that I'm talking to you guys at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, and I have to just eat my words and say, by God, they cut them 6 or 7%, and we're at 5.9. I just don't see it happening. I see us staying in the sixes. I do hope that we get to the low sixes because the difference between 6% and 7% is substantial. So I pray that we get there, but I want to be realistic. And maybe I'm, the negative Nelly here, but I would rather be realistic with you and have you thinking in real time than waiting and hoping for third and fourth quarter to be down at 5.5%, and it never happened. And now you've missed other opportunities because they didn't actually act on what they said. And realistically, keep in mind, Jerome Powell has never said that we're going to come down into the fives. You have all of these people that are speculating what we're going to come down to. And a lot of people want to just err on the side of a happy unicorn. And realistically, Jerome Powell has said time after time he is going to reel things in at all costs. And I don't think we'll see 5%, you guys. So let's jump over here in the comments. Anthony, my man, more inventory. Yes. Spring is my favorite season. I love seeing the trees bud up. Plus, I'm a spring baby. Me too. I'm April. When are you? Maybe that's why we're besties here. I love it. Wait, so is a mortgage not fixed? It is fixed. It is fixed. However, it can change based on your taxes. So if your taxes increase, that could change your monthly payment. But once you lock in a mortgage rate, that rate is locked. So that's not going to really change things. Powell putting Americans in financial timeout. That's literally what happened. I'm telling you, he's like a dad that's telling us, I'll control it for you if you can't. That's what you think. You have a daddy, not him, though. You think he's not, but financially he is, because he does get to control things, whether you like it, I like it, or anyone likes it. It's going to be a roller coaster, strap in, folks. That's for sure. But I think it's going to be a child's roller coaster instead of like a big girl roller coaster, if you will, because I think this year we're going to see far less ups and downs, where last year it was literally like multiple times a day the rates would change. So you really had no idea what you were getting into. You couldn't tell whether you should lock in. Literally from the morning to the afternoon, locking in could look very different as far as the rates would go. And I remember a couple of weeks there where it was literally, we went from 5% to 8% and then back down to 7%. So if you locked when you were at the higher end thinking, oh God, well, I don't want it to go to 9 or 10. And then all of a sudden next week it dropped to 6, I'd be pissed. Right. So I don't think that we're going to see a lot of those major ups and downs. It's going to be more like a baby roller coaster. I've heard gas prices going up to deal with travel demand. This makes me worry about energy prices and the CPI numbers go up instead of down, which makes the Fed pause longer than Q2. I've been watching this as well, especially with gas prices, because as spring and summer comes, obviously people are taking more trips and they always increase gas. I'm going to be optimistic and say that they're going to keep that in mind of the season that we're in. I do think that we're going to see a reduction in interest rates, probably the June or July timeframe. For most places, that's going to be their busiest season. I know for us here in Georgia, May through July is our busiest time. We have a lot of people that are trying to get in to homes because school starts here the beginning of August. Over the years, it used to be after Labor Day, but over the years they've brought it, closer and closer to literally the beginning of August is when school starts here. So a lot of people make the move during the summer months because that way they can get here, get moved in, get acclimated, enroll the kids into school, maybe make a couple of friends and hit the ground running in August before, the chaos ensues. So I'm going to be hopeful and say that we're going to see a rate, but I just, you guys, I don't see it happening 6 or 7 times. So great to hear this info that it isn't really emphasized anywhere else. Yes. April 15th. Shut up. I'm April 16th. I knew that there was something. Miss Ayers, how are things in your neck of the woods? I love that you guys are friends on here. So I want to jump over here and talk about the recession. And so we were kind of just talking about this, but I loved some of these things, these graphs to kind of show you what people are looking at. So some of the economists, it's funny because just a year ago, only 39% of people were thinking that we would be continuing on in a positive path. 61% thought that we would be going on to a negative path and that we would absolutely be having a recession. Now it's pretty much flip-flopped. And so January of this year, 61% have said, no, we will not be having a recession. We'll be having a soft landing. Like I said, kind of the baby roller coaster that I mentioned. And so I think that is a positive when we're looking at all of this, because I would much rather have a softer landing than continue to have a more rough landing, if you will, where we're seeing things kind of a bump and maybe even interest rates going back up, which I don't think we're going to see. And I am very, very thankful for that. But one of the things that I wanted to jump in and talk to you guys about today is tiny homes, because this is something that I've been seeing more and more of. And in Georgia, it's not something that we've seen a lot of. However, the last couple of years, we've had substantial growth as far as our home prices, which has really led to an issue of affordable housing. And so, like I said, when I started today, to get new construction, you're really looking at a budget of between $500,000 and $600,000. There are some opportunities that are below that, but realistically, you're going to be looking at townhomes if you're lower than that, or you're going to be looking much further out. So you're not really looking in the suburbs of Georgia. You're looking a little bit further out from that. And for, some people that have to commute in, that's just not a realistic place to be. And so we've seen more and more of these tiny home communities popping up. Now, some of the questions that I've had is this basically like a mobile home, or is this a glorified mobile home? Are we looking at mobile home parks? And my answer to that is no. My other answer to that is please do not think of mobile home parks like I think a lot of us do back in the day. They've come a long way. Manufactured homes this day and age are a completely different ballgame. They are a very affordable option. And if you buy your own plot of land and use one, don't discount it until you've looked at it. But let's dive in and take a look at some of these options here, because this was an article that just recently came out from realtor.com, and they say small yet mighty, 10 towns where tiny homes are trending big. And what do you know? Georgia is on this list. So let's get down there. So if you can see here, this is kind of where we're seeing the growth of some of these tiny homes. Now, I can't say that in Alaska, I would want to be in a tiny home. I feel like I would want a little bit more substantial, but I know that they've been very popular in Alaska for quite some time. So Georgia made the list because we actually have quite a few places that are being built. So what qualifies as a tiny home? Well, a tiny home is anything that is 1,500 square feet or less. And one of the popular things that I really see with tiny homes is the home itself is maybe 1,000 square feet. They utilize every square inch very wisely. And the outside of the home has a substantial either deck, covered patio area, fire pit. Like they really utilize the outdoors more. And here in Georgia, that's a great factor because we have really good weather to accommodate that for quite some time. We really only have seriously cold months for maybe 2 or 3 months out of the year. So the rest of that time, you could be spending a ton of time outdoors. And the great thing about this is if you look, This isn't something that's brand new to Georgia. We have seen this over time, but if you look here, some of the other spots are up in the Northeast. You've got them up in Massachusetts. They've talked about over in Hawaii, they're doing some of them. But so down here, you'll see Cleveland, Georgia is number 8. And the median price of a new home that's a tiny home, these are new homes, $139,000, 740. So that is extremely affordable. So this is a new property. This is not a resale property. Some of these homes, you guys, are very, very cute. I don't know if you've, personally stayed in one. There is a community that's up on Lake Burton. I'm going to share with you guys. I think I've shared it with you before. It is an adorable community, and this is Sugar Mill Creek at Lake Burton. These homes are absolutely adorable. You can actually go and rent them out. Some of them are Airbnbs. They're right on the river, and they go into Lake Burton. You're literally just a stone's throw from Lake Burton. So that is something that if you want to check one out, see if it's doable for you, I would definitely suggest it. Let's see. So this is in Augusta. Their first tiny home village is going to be built this year. So a couple of videos ago, you probably heard me talk about this. I'm really excited for this opportunity. They're going to be building this not far from Augusta. There's also one in College Park that they're going to be building. And a lot of these are going to give so many more first-time homebuyers an opportunity to get into a home. A lot of them are being used as Airbnbs, like I mentioned. And so I'm excited for what this looks like. There's also one that a lot of people don't know about. I want to see if they have some of the floor plans. So yes, you can actually get some of these prefabricated ones delivered on site. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but Amazon actually sells them and will deliver them to your house. So if you bought a plot of land, bought one, Home Depot sells them. You can actually have them delivered and they will be put together for you. Or if you want to do a little bit more custom job, there are builders that specifically build tiny homes. And the reason that you want one of those builders if you're doing it is because they really know how to put every square inch to work for you in that home. So as far as like your closets, your kitchen cabinets, the square footage, making it work and utilize every square inch so that you're not feeling like you're in this tiny space. So the thing that I love about this one is the $2.5 million project will have 25 tiny homes for kids aging out of the foster care system. You guys know that I've talked about this before. This is a huge thing for me. I'm a big advocate for this, just for the simple fact here in Georgia, when you hit 17, you age out of the foster care system. And basically, you could probably still be a senior in high school and you're on your own. That is completely unfair and it's horrible. And so this is going to be giving opportunities to some of those kids to have a place of their own, to have a landing spot so that they can finish school, they can go into college, they can really have the opportunity to make something of themselves and have a safe place to land. And I think that that is absolutely amazing. One of the things that a lot of people don't know here is this is not brand new to Georgia. So this is in Fayette County. This is actually where a little tiny village was built back in 2018. So the screenwriters, movie makers, and other creatives, they all lived there while they were working on a set. It's an amazing, amazing place. It was obviously modeled after like an old European place. But they all stayed here because they wanted to be able to stay together. They obviously didn't need a ton of room, but now this has been turned over and is actually being sold. And these tiny homes are absolutely adorable. They're absolutely gorgeous. I have not been here. I'm really thinking that I should go and I should check it out. Maybe we should do a video on this. But I'm super excited about it. And I think tiny homes are really going to be a new thing. We have one coming up being built in Sugar Hill, Georgia, which is just down the street from me. There's another one that's being built in Peachtree City. We've got the one that's over in Augusta. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of these. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about, do you think you could live in one, first of all? And do you think that we're going to be kind of seeing this as the future? Because I think that we really might. I heard Lawrenceville is going to have a tiny, yes, they are. It's going to be over kind of on the other side of downtown Lawrenceville. They're going to be having that. And I think, like, again, we're going to be seeing a lot more of them. The mobile homes can be super, they can. They really can. All jokes aside, they really absolutely can. I think a lot of people have the thought of what mobile homes looked like back in the 70s and 80s. And I would really encourage you, if you are dead set on home ownership, take a look at them, because they will kind of open your eyes to a whole different perspective. Set a mobile home on a foundation, and it's hard to tell nowadays that it's a trailer. Yes. Oh my God, Lake Burton is amazing. It is, but it is insanely, insanely pricey. So being able to go to an Airbnb and some of those tiny homes where you're literally steps from the lake, you're steps from the river, you're just a couple of miles from the downtown Raven area. It's a really great opportunity to get to explore that area, as well as stay in a really nice Airbnb. They have a full functioning like fire pit area. A lot of the people come out at night. They have, wait, that sounds bad. A lot of the people come out at night. They come out at night because they have live music and they have the fire pit going. And it's just like a little community that you can come out and hang out with people and get to know. You were just going to mention Amazon. It's crazy to me that they literally, you can order a house. I went and looked at homedepot.com to kind of see what that looks like. And sure enough, you can order a home to be delivered to you, a prefab home. It gets delivered to you and you put it together like it's a puzzle. I've been looking at some of the reviews, and so far they have a lot of really positive reviews. I just don't think I could. I have way too much stuff. That's a lot of people. But I think it also depends on when you were raised, when you were born, and when you were raised, because I think a lot of people that are kind of Gen Z, Gen Alpha coming up, they were all raised to be minimalists, probably partially because they've been traumatized by millennials and boomers with all of our hoarding issues. But that being said, I think that a lot of the millennials, not millennials, Gen Z and then Gen Alpha, definitely, I've been talking to them and hearing they really appreciate more experiences. They would rather have a tiny home and then be able to go and travel the world, travel different places, than have to spend most of their money on a large home. They would just rather have experiences compared to things, which I can't say that I blame them. Same here. Anthony, you think, well, with a few baby girls, you can't really go into 1,000 square feet. You would be living outside because you feel like you need more space. I could live in one, especially with these prices for a normal single family home or townhouse. Um, I would love to know your age bracket, or are you Gen Z? Are you? I don't know if you would be millennial, because I've really found that it's kind of that bracket of age group where you guys don't have as much stuff. You're not hoarding like we are, and I feel like you could, possibly have the opportunity to live in a tiny home and it be a better option for you guys. So the last thing I want to make sure that I share with you is there is so Holly Springs is not a new town. However, it is getting a lot of a facelift. So this is actually something that's been going on for about a year and a half. But Holly Springs is over. If you're really wondering about where is Holly Springs located, because some people say they've never heard of Holly Springs. If you're looking over to the west side of Georgia, if you are familiar with where Woodstock is, and then Canton, Ball Ground, that whole section, Holly Springs is actually kind of right between Canton and then Woodstock. So Woodstock is going to be here, Canton is up here, Holly Springs is kind of right in the middle of them. And for the longest time, those areas were not quite as built up. You have Woodstock, which has an amazing downtown. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about that for quite some time. They've got some really amazing restaurants in downtown Woodstock. They've been doing a lot of building in Woodstock, really trying to make it that micro city, urbanizing it some. And then Canton has seen a ton of growth. Canton is more focused on single family living, so single family homes, where Woodstock is kind of a mixture. They're really trying to urbanize it with cluster homes, single family homes, condos. There's a lot happening in Woodstock right now. But I feel like people are missing out on Holly Springs because it's just not talked about as much. It's not publicized as much. But these houses are adorable. They're just down the street from the downtown area. These are some renderings of what the homes are going to look like as they finish. They've also got a lot of these coming, which are going to be the stacked flats. They're going to be right there in the downtown area. It's going to be basically condos. And so there is so much to offer. Let's see if I can get this to pop up for me. Yep. So this is some of what they have going on downtown. They've got kind of the music festival going on that's going to be popping up. This is kind of what it's going to look like when it's finished. So you've been seeing across a lot of the towns in Georgia, these micro cities that a lot of them were already there. Suwanee, Duluth, Woodstock, Alpharetta, Cumming, all of these were already there. However, for the longest time, it was basically you have the city of Atlanta as the hub. And then as you went out to the suburbs, it was kind of like every man for himself. It was very family oriented with single family homes, but you didn't have a walkability factor. You didn't have a lot of restaurants and things that you could go to. It was like you live out here and then you drive back into the city for what you needed. Over time, that changed a little bit, but Atlanta, or I shouldn't say Atlanta, Atlanta has mass transit, but the suburbs really didn't have it for quite some time. And so if you didn't have a car, you were stranded because you needed a car to go to the grocery store. It was not walkable. You couldn't just, walk out the door and go to any restaurants, anything like that. You had to have a car for everything you did. And Georgia is really trying to change that. Now, obviously, it's taken a lot of effort because they're kind of having to put in the back end because that wasn't something that was thought about at the time. The population here didn't warrant all of that. So now you've got Cummings City Center, you've got Suwanee Town Center, you've got the downtown Woodstock district, you have Avalon, Halcyon, even Milton has really grown up. So all of these towns are trying to kind of urbanize their specific areas so that if you want to live that city life, you don't have to necessarily go into Atlanta to have that. So maybe you're in your 20s, you don't really want to have the single family home and be in the middle of a family oriented neighborhood. You're still living your best life, as a young professional. You now have the opportunity to live in some of these more suburban areas without having to deal with the traffic of the big city, because a lot of these areas are catering to that, which I think is a great opportunity that was missed for a while. So Holly Springs, do not sleep on Holly Springs. This is going to be a really adorable city when it's finished. There's a lot already there that you can go and check out. They're just going to be continuing to build on this. So if you're looking for a place in Georgia, I would definitely say this is one not to miss. So let's wrap up. Check out our comments. I could live in one, especially. Oh, yes, we just talked about that. You're Gen Z. I had a feeling. So from your perspective, I really don't have much stuff for now. Clothes, miscellaneous items, and that's about it for me. Moving should be a breeze for me. So I would love to hear from your, thoughts. Are you one of the ones that thinks that maybe having experiences in life, being able to just pick up and travel is better than having a big house and filling it full of things, which I feel like from a millennial standpoint and even boomers that are a little bit older than me, I feel like that's kind of what we were, I don't want to say taught, but it's just kind of what was instilled. And I'm noticing a trend of that's completely being undone. It's a very, cleansing your energy, not having a lot of hoarding stuff in the house, which I can't say I blame you. I think it's great. Maybe a speed rail that traverses around Georgia would help with traffic. That it would be. Unfortunately, we have MARTA, but that only goes out so far. And then we do have the buses, and those you have different ones. You have MARTA buses that are in the city, and then you also have Gwinnett Transit, which is going to be out in Gwinnett County, and then there's a couple of other ones as well. So I think we'll start to see more and more linking things together. I don't think that we'll ever get to a point where you could live in one city and be able to walk to another. They're just way too far apart, spread apart. But the fact that you can live in some of these more suburban areas, have more of an urban feeling, being able to walk to restaurants, shops, even if you have to drive, you're still just 5-10 minutes down the street from them compared to having to go into Buckhead or the city for some of the more, good shopping and restaurants where just 10-15 years ago, those were really your only options. So I'm excited for all of this to take place. The city of Mulberry is talking about building on as well. So there's a lot of new opportunities here in Georgia that I'm super excited to see how they play out in 2024. I appreciate you guys jumping on with me tonight. As always, if I didn't answer your questions or you have someone you get off, feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to talking with you, and I will see you guys next Thursday.